Hello, I'm Tim Linvall reporting for Sion Hill Press, and today we are meeting with three of the members from the Prom Week team that is received a nomination from the Independent Games Festival for technical excellence. Start things off, why don't you each introduce yourselves and tell us briefly what you did on the project.
My name is Ben Samuel. My title is lead engineer on the project, but essentially I did a little bit of everything. Many of us wore many hats throughout this project.
I'm Josh McCoy, a PhD student here under Michael Mateus in the Expressive Intelligence Studio. I was the lead AI designer. But like we said, this is a very collaborative effort, and we all dabbled in about everything. I also had the fortune of putting the team together, as it were. So the AI system behind the game is my dissertation topic, so I got to assemble this awesome team of grad students to make our game a reality.
And I'm Aaron Reed. I was the lead writer on Prom Week. When I started working on Prom Week, I was in the Digital Arts New Media MFA program. I've since graduated and am now in the Computer Science PhD program.
Like, how long have you been working on Prom Week, would you say?
My time with Prom Week began pretty much at the sort of like creation stage of the game itself, which was fall 2009.
Yeah, the game went through. Prom Week's went through some iterations since then. It first started off as a demo of how to encode sort of like sociology as a playable playable media experience.
For those watching, briefly, 30-second, I guess, elevator pitch, how would you describe Prom Week to someone who is first learning about the game?
All right. Prom Week is a social physics game where you get to play high school characters, their social lives leading up to the highly dramatic week of their high school prom. You get to play each character's story, and stories are things, are goals that they have. You start at an initial state with characters and friends and enemies, and then you have to take a character, say Zach, the geek, or Lily, the emo girl, and achieve game goals by manipulating characters and having them do social interactions with each other, like flirt, date, break up, insult, things like this, to change their relationships to achieve prom goals, like becoming popular by the end of the prom or having an awesome prom date.
So you as the player sort of have your goals that you're given, like, oh, I want this person to be dating the girl of his dreams, I want the bully to get his comeuppance, but then the characters themselves are driven by this very sophisticated AI system. So gameplay then sort of becomes a negotiation of what you as the player want and what the characters themselves want to do, and sort of massaging the social state such that the character's own goals mirror your own as the player.
What makes this game, in your views, sort of innovative compared to other games out on the market right now?
It's not like most games like Mass Effect 3 or The Old Republic, Star Wars The Old Republic, where you have dialogue trees that you navigate through and you get one of very few choices and the world transforms according to those choices. Here you have a lot of choices, and the sort of like the social physics of the AI system handles all of the fallout, all the pieces, all the social blocks, like relationships and friendships falling as they may, given what you did with the world. So we have this big story space that you can explore, and by going from the initial story state to achieving some goals, you tell your own unique story as you play the game.
Yeah, from the writer's perspective, that's definitely a thing that's different. Traditionally, in an interactive story, you have like a path you're on, and then you make a choice of which path to go on to. But Prom Week has this much more sort of complicated, all of these thousands of little pieces moving around. And so any individual player's course through all of those blocks is going to be probably unique to any other players.
So one of the common laments that sort of exists in game design these days is the idea of action-oriented play. The idea that it's really easy to model games that you have an active role in, like, for example, driving or shooting or those sort of things. But it kind of becomes difficult to model social interactions and sort of social dynamics. Do you think this game and the engine underlying it has potential to sort of shift that paradigm?
Absolutely, and that's what it was sort of aimed towards. But once you start getting out of like these mathematical Euclidean spaces and you want more like, let's let's say like a storytelling space or a social space. We are not very good at that right now. I mean, it's sort of the space that we want to push forward is the more deeply playable stories as opposed to story branches and trees. We want a deeply playable social space like we have deeply playable physics spaces now.
All right, so real briefly, just joining in with us here, you want to introduce yourself and describe briefly what you did on the project?
Yeah, so my name is Mike Trainer. I was lead gameplay design, but as everyone said, we all worked on everything. Really focused on making this really complicated system, try to be as accessible to players as possible, which was really hard.
Why Prom?
So that, what we did to sort of make this game was take a lot of pre-existing dramatic pieces of fiction and sort of encode them into the AI system. Prom happened to be a cultural artifact that had the drama knob like turned up to 11. All of the relationships, all of the dramatic interactions that are inside that are about these prom high school dramas like Saved by the Bell or Mean Girls have all of these dating, friends, romance, enemies, all of these things very pronounced, and it made it very easy for us to look at, do sort of an ethnographic analysis and find the salient points and put them into an AI system.
It's also one that's really familiar to, almost every American had some sort of prom experience, even if they didn't go, their friends went and they were caught up in some sort of, drama related to that. So it's something that people are innately familiar with, like the implied rules and the what goes on in that scenario. So
yeah, it's funny how many people play the game and they're like, oh my god, this was exactly everything I hated about being in prom.
Here, what would you say is your most memorable moment from this project?
Maybe at about like the 4-month mark, so like very early on in the process, our advisor, Michael Mateus, was going to give a demo of Prom Week, of Promocalypse maybe at that time, at GDC. And we didn't exactly have a demo for a few reasons, one of which was we had taken a moment to write a very large subset of the codebase in Scala, in a different programming language, and then we decided that that wasn't going to be a good idea, and so then essentially the day before the demo, we had to rewrite all of this Scala code. But we managed to pull through and get something approaching a demo available that Michael was able to present, and that felt. I think we felt like heroes on that day, a little bit. I did at least.
I have a memorable moment,
Okay.
and that would be it takes a little setup because in October when we were first submitting Prom Week to IGF, we've had many solid months of development since then. The game wasn't in a terribly good or playable state at that point. And so I guess I think many of us had sort of like written off our chances of being a nominee for any category, let alone technical excellence. And so I'm asleep on, what is it, January 10th or whatever, didn't even know the awards were coming out. And then my phone starts like buzzing, and then like I get all these emails, and then I have no idea what's going on. Like all my colleagues are like frantically like, there's texts, there's emails all over the place. I'm like, did something happen? Was something wrong? And then it just turns out that we got nominated, and it was just this complete awesome experience that day. There was lots of elation going on.